The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for millennia, its reach extending far beyond the known galaxies. Countless worlds had fallen under its control, each one swept into the fold of an endless, cold bureaucracy. The Empire's fleet was a symbol of its absolute power, sleek, imposing warships capable of obliterating entire civilizations in an instant. For the Galactic Empire, there was no such thing as a species too small or insignificant to be eradicated. No threat was too minor to be considered, for all were enemies of the Empire's singular mission, control and order. The Empire's leaders sat in their command centers, cloaked in the certainty of their superiority. They believed they had seen everything. They had conquered countless species with ease, crushed rebellions, and quelled uprisings across the galaxy. When the scientists on the Imperial Council discovered Earth, their response was the same: dismissal. Humanity, a primitive species on a small, relatively insignificant planet, held no real threat to the Empire. Earth had not even begun to explore beyond its solar system, its technology barely outpacing its own atmosphere. To the Empire, humanity was no different from countless other species that had been eradicated before it. The first contact with Earth was made not by any grand gesture, but through intercepted communications. A small satellite transmission, seemingly innocuous, was caught in the Empire's vast surveillance network. What the analysts discovered, however, was far more disturbing than they anticipated. This seemingly primitive race, already on the cusp of their technological advancement, was capable of rapid development. More importantly, the Empire discovered that Earth's leaders were no longer confined to their petty political squabbles. They had started to unite. They had begun developing space exploration capabilities and had reached the point of launching their first interstellar probes. The implications were dire. The Empire saw this rapid development as a potential future problem, a danger they could not ignore. The decision was made swiftly. A fleet of warships, small by Empire standards but still formidable, was dispatched toward Earth. An ultimatum was drafted, a simple message to send to the humans. The message would be delivered directly to Earth's leaders, broadcast globally to send a clear signal. The message was calculated and deliberate. The Empire did not seek dialogue, for it did not need to. It simply demanded compliance, as it had done for centuries. Humans of Earth, your existence has been deemed a threat to the Galactic Empire. Surrender now, or face annihilation. Your primitive technology is no match for the might of the Empire. We will destroy all that you hold dear. The message was signed by the High Commander of the Galactic Empire, a title that invoked fear across hundreds of worlds. The delivery was swift and without mercy, leaving the human race in shock. The first broadcast of the message left Earth's leaders in a state of paralysis. No one had ever imagined such a confrontation was possible. Earth had long been an isolated, insignificant world in the grand scope of the galaxy. How could they stand against an enemy so vast, so powerful? Military leaders scrambled to prepare their forces, but the reality of the situation was that Earth had no military force capable of confronting such a powerful enemy. No nation on Earth had the technology, the manpower, or the resources to challenge the Empire. A global conference was called, but the outcome was predictable. Some nations immediately pushed for surrender, hoping to preserve their way of life in exchange for appeasement. Others, more defiant, called for resistance, but they were few and far between. Panic began to spread through the ranks of governments, business leaders, and civilians alike. While Earth's leaders debated the fate of their planet, a different set of events was unfolding far beneath the surface of the public eye. For years, a covert program had been running under the radar, funded by secretive governments and private organizations across the globe. This program had one goal, not defense, but exploration. A handful of visionary scientists and engineers, working in secret, had been designing and building an interstellar fleet. The fleet wasn't meant to protect Earth from an external force, it was designed to carry humans into the stars, to explore new worlds, and to understand the mysteries of the cosmos. No one could have foreseen that this fleet would soon be Earth's last hope against an invading empire. The ships that were being developed were unlike any traditional warships. These were vessels built for exploration, not destruction. They were equipped with advanced technologies that Earth's best minds had painstakingly developed over the years: quantum systems for deep space navigation, gravitational field manipulation systems, and energy-based propulsion engines that could propel the ships faster than anything the Empire had ever encountered. However, these technologies were not meant for combat, they were designed for peaceful discovery. Yet, as Earth's leaders realized the true nature of the threat facing them, they had no choice but to repurpose the fleet. The fleets of the Galactic Empire were vast and powerful, brimming with the most advanced weaponry the galaxy had ever seen. But there was a critical mistake the Empire had made, a mistake that would soon be their undoing. They had underestimated humanity. They had failed to understand that Earth, despite its apparent primitiveness, had a deep well of ingenuity and resourcefulness that no alien force had ever truly encountered. The people of Earth were not soldiers, but they were survivors. They were not experts in warfare, but they were clever. They had learned over centuries to adapt to their environment, to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. The Empire would soon learn that this ingenuity, this adaptability, was far more dangerous than any weapon. The covert fleet, still in its final stages of development, was activated with urgency. Its pilots, trained not as soldiers but as engineers, scientists, and civilian volunteers, took to their ships. They understood that their mission was not just to explore, but to survive. These civilians were Earth's last line of defense. The fate of humanity rested in their hands, and they would fight not with the advanced weapons of the Empire, but with their own creativity, using the unique technology of their ships in ways no one had ever imagined. As the fleet emerged from the depths of secrecy, it was clear that Earth was no longer helpless. The first wave of human ships moved into orbit around Earth, cloaked in secrecy. They made use of the terrain of their home planet, hiding within Earth's magnetosphere, using the moon and its craters as shields. They weren't prepared to fight with traditional weapons. Instead, they would rely on their unique technology, gravity weapons that could manipulate the path of objects in space, cloaking devices that made their ships invisible to Imperial scanners, and quantum-based weapons that could disrupt enemy ship systems without firing a single shot. The first engagement with the Empire's fleet was swift and brutal. The Empire sent its first strike force, 50 ships designed for domination. Earth's warships, with their civilian crews, faced the invasion fleet not with military precision, but with the will to protect everything they knew. They struck with unexpected speed, using gravity fields to disrupt enemy missiles, pulling them off course before they could hit their targets. Human ingenuity, born of necessity, had created weapons that were not just advanced, but unpredictable. Each move made by Earth's warships was a surprise to the Empire, leaving the invading fleet in disarray. The Galactic Empire had assumed that Earth was nothing more than a planet of primitive beings with no ability to resist, but humanity's creativity and determination were more than the Empire had bargained for. What began as a simple invasion had now become a battle for survival, one that humanity was determined to win. Humanity's initial surprise at the arrival of the Galactic Empire soon gave way to a grim resolve. The first wave of the Empire's fleet had been repelled with a strategy that no one, least of all the Empire, had anticipated. What the invaders had thought would be a quick and easy conquest had turned into something more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The Empire had assumed that Earth's primitive technology, coupled with its scattered and disorganized governments, would make it an easy target. They had not reckoned on humanity's ingenuity, nor its ability to unite in the face of annihilation. For the first time in history, Earth's various nations put aside their differences and worked together, pooling their resources to launch a global defense effort. Governments, corporations, and private individuals all contributed to the war effort. Scientists and engineers, who had once been focused solely on exploration, turned their skills to the task of creating the most effective weapons they could. The warships that had originally been built for peaceful exploration were now re-engineered into formidable defenders of Earth. Even the public, who had no knowledge of the existence of these ships until now, rallied together. Volunteers poured in from every corner of the planet, not soldiers, but civilians, ready to fight for their homes and families. It was clear from the start that the warships Earth's engineers had developed were not meant for conventional combat. These ships had been designed to explore the vast unknowns of space, to reach distant stars and new worlds. They were sleek, modular, and adaptable, built to withstand the harshest environments and endure long journeys through the cold void. But what they lacked in traditional military firepower, they more than made up for with creativity. One of the most significant advantages Earth's ships had was their ability to manipulate gravity. Using technology based on quantum mechanics and cutting-edge principles of space-time manipulation, these ships could create gravitational anomalies. They could make enemy missiles veer off course, distort the trajectory of enemy weapons, and even slow down time around their ships. This was a technology so unpredictable and novel that the Empire had no countermeasures prepared for it. The first significant battle after the Empire's arrival took place in Earth's orbit. The Empire's fleet, now reinforced and larger than before, descended toward Earth, intent on crushing the human resistance. The initial assault was an overwhelming show of power, enormous warships that blotted out the sky, their weapons designed to decimate anything in their path. However, as they entered Earth's orbit, they were met by a force unlike anything they had encountered before. The humans had learned quickly. The ships, despite being manned by civilians and engineers rather than battle-hardened soldiers, were able to deploy their gravity-based weapons in such a way that they disrupted the Empire's targeting systems. A simple missile barrage turned into a chaotic series of near misses as the gravity fields around Earth's ships caused the missiles to veer off course, harmlessly flying into the vacuum of space. The Empire's fighters, sleek and deadly, tried to launch coordinated attacks, only to have their targeting systems thrown into disarray by gravity wells that altered the flow of space around them. These tactics, seemingly random and unorthodox, were a nightmare for the Empire's fleet. Their highly trained soldiers, accustomed to fighting in a disciplined, predictable manner, could not anticipate the fluid, almost chaotic nature of humanity's tactics. But the Empire didn't give up easily. They sent in wave after wave of reinforcements, deploying more fighters, more bombers, and larger capital ships. As each new wave arrived, it became clear that the battle would not be won by sheer force alone. Earth's warships, though advanced, were still outnumbered, and their pilots were not military commanders. They were civilians, engineers, scientists, and even some former astronauts, ordinary people with extraordinary resolve. They didn't have the luxury of being experts in military tactics. They had to rely on their creativity, their ability to think on their feet, and their deep connection to their home planet. The human fleet's response to each new wave of invaders was not one of retreat or fear but one of adaptation. Each engagement taught them something new. They began to use the environment around them to their advantage. Earth's moon, a desolate and barren place, became a shield against the Empire's attacks. The human fleet would retreat into its craters, hiding from the Empire's scanners, launching surprise strikes from the shadow of the lunar surface. They used Earth's natural magnetic fields to cloak their ships, temporarily rendering them invisible to the Empire's sensors. The battles took on the nature of guerrilla warfare, a constant game of cat and mouse where the human fleet would strike quickly, disrupt the Empire's lines, and disappear before they could be targeted. As each battle unfolded, humanity's adaptability became more apparent. The Empire's fleet, though powerful and technologically superior, found itself caught in a war of attrition it had never expected. Each encounter left them questioning their understanding of the situation. Earth was not simply fighting for survival, it was making a statement. The people of Earth were not simply going to accept their fate. They were going to fight, not with the technology of the Empire, but with their own, strange, and unpredictable tools. One of the defining moments of this second phase of the war came when the human fleet deployed a new weapon, one that had been in development but never tested until now. It was a massive gravity pulse cannon, capable of destabilizing the space around an enemy ship. The Empire had never seen anything like it. The cannon was designed to generate a brief, intense gravity wave that could cause an enemy ship to lose its stability, its internal systems to malfunction, and its trajectory to go haywire. It wasn't an instant kill weapon, far from it, but it was enough to disrupt the enemy, to make them question whether they were truly the superior force they believed themselves to be. When the cannon was first used, it did not destroy the Empire's fleet, but it caused such chaos within their ranks that they were forced to retreat temporarily. The Empire had underestimated the power of Earth's unconventional tactics, but this single victory gave humanity a sense of hope. The human fleet, though small and outgunned, had proven that it could hold its ground. In the wake of the battle, Earth's leaders, both governmental and military, began to realize that they were no longer facing a simple invasion. This was a war for survival, and it would require everything Earth had. More ships were built, and more civilians trained to pilot them. People from all over the planet volunteered, willing to sacrifice everything to protect their world. The war that had begun with a single, overwhelming strike by the Empire was now turning into a protracted, bloody conflict. While Earth's civilians prepared for the next round of attacks, the Empire began to question the intelligence reports they had received. What had initially been deemed a simple, primitive species was now a force to be reckoned with. Their warships, though not equipped with the advanced weapons of the Empire, were proving to be highly effective in battle. The Empire's leadership began to take notice. In the bowels of the Empire's command ships, strategists convened to discuss the situation. They could no longer afford to underestimate the humans. As the second phase of the war unfolded, it became clear that the conflict was not just about power, it was about resilience. The Empire's vast fleet, with all its superior technology and overwhelming numbers, was being tested by humanity's resolve. And each time the Empire thought it had crushed the resistance, humanity found a way to fight back. The war had become something far greater than a simple conquest, it had become a battle for the soul of humanity itself. Each victory, no matter how small, was a testament to the resilience of Earth's people. The Galactic Empire, once so certain of its dominance, had now entered a war unlike any it had ever fought before. And in that war, humanity had become more than just a species fighting for survival, it had become a force to be reckoned with. As the war between Earth and the Galactic Empire raged on, the stakes grew higher with each passing day. The Empire, once confident in its ability to crush any threat to its rule, now found itself locked in an ongoing battle with a species it had grossly underestimated. What began as a single, arrogant ultimatum had transformed into a brutal, all-out war. The Empire's superiority in numbers and advanced technology had not delivered the quick victory they had expected. Instead, they were faced with a series of unexpected, unpredictable tactics from the humans, strategies rooted in desperation, but executed with an intelligence and ingenuity that left the Empire scrambling to adapt. Despite their technological advantages, the Empire's forces had never encountered an enemy so relentless, so determined to survive, that it would use every possible advantage at its disposal. The human fleet, though smaller and outgunned, had shown that it could fight not just with weapons, but with creativity. Their use of gravity manipulation technology had already caught the Empire off guard, disrupting the Empire's weapons and sensors, leaving their warships vulnerable. The gravity pulse cannon, though still a work in progress, had proven effective in destabilizing larger Imperial ships, throwing their systems into disarray. But these victories, though significant, had come at a heavy price. Earth's warships were still few in number, and their pilots were civilians, scientists, engineers, and volunteers, rather than seasoned soldiers. They lacked the combat training and coordination that the Empire's military forces took for granted. The human fleet, though able to inflict damage, was still fragile, and the Empire knew this. Every skirmish, every engagement, had its cost. The human fleet had managed to cripple one Imperial battalion, but the Empire responded swiftly, bringing in reinforcements, ready to crush any further resistance. In the midst of this chaos, the humans realized they had reached a tipping point. The Empire would not simply back down. Its forces would only grow stronger, and humanity's window for victory was narrowing. The conflict had become not just a fight for Earth's survival, but a battle for the future of the entire human race. The question no longer was whether humanity could survive the Empire's assault, but whether they could defeat the Empire, or at the very least, make the cost of victory so great that the Empire would reconsider its plans to destroy Earth. To face the escalating threat, the human fleet had to change its approach. It became clear that conventional tactics were no longer sufficient. Guerrilla warfare, though effective, was a temporary solution. The Empire was adapting quickly. It had already deployed larger, more powerful ships, and their numbers were growing. The time for skirmishes and small victories was over. The humans would need to strike decisively, and they would need to do it with everything they had. This was no longer a war of defense, it was a war of attrition, and the humans had to force the Empire to expend resources at a rate that could not be sustained. Humanity's response was a bold, high-risk strategy, the full mobilization of Earth's remaining technological resources. The warships that had once been built for exploration were now reconfigured as war machines, integrated with every form of technology Earth could muster. In a last-ditch effort to turn the tide, humanity began mass-producing advanced quantum weapons capable of disrupting the Empire's entire fleet. These weapons, though still experimental, had the potential to create localized distortions in space-time, rendering Imperial ships helpless by forcing them into unpredictable spatial anomalies. To deploy this new weapon, the humans would need a decisive strike, one that would break the Empire's grip on Earth and send a message to the entire galaxy. The humans would make their stand at the heart of the Empire's forces, in deep space, just outside Earth's orbit, where the Empire's command ships coordinated their assault. It was a bold move, an all-or-nothing gamble, but it was their only hope. As the human fleet gathered its forces, the Empire was preparing its own final push. The Empire's command center, a massive space station orbiting a gas giant on the edge of the system, was ready to send its most powerful armada to Earth. The Empire had already underestimated the humans once, but this time, they would not make the same mistake. They were sending their largest fleet, fully equipped with the latest weapons and technology, prepared to wipe humanity off the map. In the days leading up to the final confrontation, humanity's fleet prepared for the impossible. With their fleet outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed by the Empire's technological superiority, the humans realized that they would have to rely on their greatest weapon, unpredictability. The human fleet had become a patchwork of technology, an eclectic mix of quantum-powered ships and civilian-manufactured vessels, each modified for combat in ways the Empire could never have anticipated. The crew, though not professional soldiers, had become experts in using every available tool to fight for survival. They had learned to outthink the Empire at every turn, using their knowledge of their own environment to exploit the weaknesses of their enemies. The final battle began with the Empire's overwhelming force pouring into Earth's orbit. The human fleet, once again, used the moon to hide, waiting for the Empire to take the bait. The initial clash was a blur of energy blasts, gravitational distortions, and chaotic maneuvers. The Empire's ships, though formidable, were caught off guard as Earth's warships launched an all-out assault. The gravity pulse cannons were used to destabilize the Empire's fleet, and the quantum weapons were deployed in waves, creating black holes and space-time anomalies that warped the very fabric of reality. For the first time in the war, the Empire's command ships, which had been directing the battle from the rear, found themselves plunged into chaos. They were pulled into rips in space-time, unable to maintain control as their systems went haywire. As the battle raged on, the human fleet began to realize something that had been hidden from them until now. The Empire's technology, though advanced, was deeply flawed. Its reliance on precision, on perfect coordination, had made it vulnerable to the very unpredictability humanity had perfected. The Empire's warships, despite their immense firepower, were designed to follow strict protocols and strategies. They had no capacity for improvisation. They were machines, calculating and efficient, but without the flexibility to deal with the chaos of war. And that was humanity's strength. With the Empire's command center in disarray and its flagship crippled by the effects of the quantum weapons, humanity pushed forward. The human fleet launched one final, desperate assault, overwhelming the Empire's remaining forces. The battle wasn't over yet, but the balance of power had shifted. The humans had done the impossible, they had managed to strike a blow that would forever alter the course of history. As the battle came to a close, the Empire's leadership was forced to make an unprecedented decision. Faced with the destruction of their fleet and the loss of Earth as a potential asset, the Empire reluctantly offered peace negotiations. They had failed to crush humanity, and now, they were forced to recognize that Earth was not the primitive, unworthy species they had once dismissed. Humanity, through its sheer willpower, creativity, and determination, had forced the Empire to the table. The war was over, but the consequences would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. Earth had survived, not just as a fragile, isolated planet, but as a new force in the galaxy, one that would never again be underestimated. And the Empire, humbled by the fierce resistance it had encountered, was forced to reconsider its approach to other worlds. The fight for survival had given humanity something far more valuable: respect, recognition, and a seat at the table of galactic power. The galaxy would never be the same again. In the wake of humanity's improbable victory, the Galactic Empire faced a dilemma that they had not anticipated. What had started as an invasion designed to extinguish a primitive species had turned into a war they were no longer certain they could win. The humans, despite their technological inferiority and limited numbers, had proven themselves to be a force unlike any the Empire had encountered. This realization didn't just shake the Empire's military leadership, it rippled through their entire bureaucratic system, from the highest echelons of power down to the lowest ranks. While Earth's victory was undeniably impressive, it came at a steep cost. The battle had ravaged both sides. Thousands of ships, Imperial and human alike, had been destroyed. Space was littered with debris from the shattered remnants of the Empire's once mighty fleet, and Earth's defensive infrastructure had been pushed to its absolute limits. Cities around the world had become fortresses, and the human fleet, though triumphant, was barely holding together after the decisive battle. Supplies were dwindling, and the population was weary from months of constant combat. The war had drained humanity's resources, and now they faced the difficult challenge of rebuilding. But even amid the destruction, there was an undeniable sense of hope. Earth had survived. Against all odds, humanity had defied the Galactic Empire. The survivors, pilots, engineers, scientists, civilians, gathered together in the aftermath, not only to rebuild their world but to understand what had truly transpired. The truth was, no one had fully grasped the extent of their victory. Humanity had faced an overwhelmingly superior force, and yet, they had won. And in the process, they had done something far more important than simply protect their world. They had earned their place among the stars. The negotiations began with unexpected speed. The Empire, having initially sought nothing less than the complete annihilation of Earth, found itself on the defensive. Their command structure had been broken, their fleet scattered, and their resources stretched thin. Desperate to avoid further destruction, the Empire's representatives reached out to humanity for talks. What was once an ultimatum to surrender or face annihilation had transformed into an offer of peace. The leaders of Earth, once divided by their national interests, now found themselves unified in a common cause. Humanity's defense was no longer a matter of national pride or regional security, it was a global, collective effort. The human delegation that sat across the negotiation table from the Empire's envoys was not a group of military commanders but a mixture of diplomats, engineers, and scientists, ordinary humans who had, through necessity, become experts in the art of war. And now, they would have to navigate a new challenge, negotiating with the very Empire that had sought their destruction. At first, the negotiations were tense. The Empire, still confident in its superior position, demanded reparations and complete control over Earth's military assets. They insisted that Earth accept a peace treaty under their terms, with conditions that would strip away any semblance of autonomy. But the humans, having fought to protect their independence, were unwilling to compromise. They had learned the hard way that their survival was not just about fighting the Empire's fleet, it was about maintaining control over their future. The human negotiators, though inexperienced in diplomacy, had a secret weapon, their unity. The war had brought humanity together in ways that no one had expected. The divisions of politics, economics, and history that once separated the nations of Earth were now irrelevant. The people of Earth had forged a new sense of identity, one that was not based on borders or allegiances, but on shared survival and shared values. The Empire had underestimated this unity, just as they had underestimated humanity's ability to defend itself. And it was this very unity that would guide their negotiation strategy. The first breakthrough in the negotiations came when the humans proposed a radically different approach. Instead of continuing to fight or submitting to the Empire's terms, they suggested a new form of intergalactic cooperation. Humanity had something the Empire needed, a fresh perspective, a different way of thinking. They offered the Empire a chance to learn from them, to explore new frontiers together. Humanity, despite its recent victory, knew that they were not yet capable of matching the Empire's technological prowess in every field. But they offered something even more valuable, an alliance based on mutual respect and collaboration. The Empire's representatives, initially skeptical, were slowly swayed by the idea. They had come to realize that humanity was not just a threat to be eliminated. It was a species with untapped potential, a species that had fought with cunning, ingenuity, and a unique brand of resourcefulness that the Empire had not encountered. The prospect of sharing knowledge and collaborating on future technologies began to appeal to some of the Empire's leaders. Perhaps the Galactic Empire had been too quick to dismiss humanity's potential. The negotiations grew increasingly complex, but humanity's resolve held firm. The peace agreement, when it was finally drafted, was not a complete capitulation to the Empire's demands. Instead, it was a treaty that guaranteed Earth's autonomy while opening the door to cooperation. The Galactic Empire would have access to Earth's unique scientific discoveries, especially in the field of quantum mechanics and gravity manipulation, but Earth would retain control over its resources and military technologies. In return, humanity would be granted limited access to the Empire's advanced technologies, allowing for mutual growth. But there was one critical condition that humanity insisted upon. The Empire had to formally acknowledge humanity's sovereignty and their right to self-determination. Earth was no longer a backward, primitive planet waiting to be conquered, it was an equal partner in this new galactic order. The Empire, having no choice but to accept the terms, agreed. The signing of the treaty was a moment of triumph for humanity. Not only had they survived the Empire's invasion, but they had done something far more significant, they had forced the Galactic Empire to recognize them as equals. For the first time, humanity was no longer a subject of the Empire's vast interstellar empire. They were now part of the galactic community, a respected species among the stars. However, the peace was not without its challenges. The treaty had left some factions within the Empire dissatisfied, particularly those who had believed in the absolute dominance of their race. There were still imperial hardliners who viewed Earth's independence as a threat, not an opportunity. These factions would continue to undermine the peace process, using political maneuvering and subtle tactics to weaken the alliance. They were determined to undo the treaty and regain control over Earth. But humanity, now united and with the support of their newfound allies in the galaxy, was ready for whatever came next. The war had changed them in ways they could not yet fully comprehend. They had faced annihilation, and they had emerged stronger, more determined, and more capable than ever before. The negotiations had secured peace, but humanity knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger journey. The future was uncertain. The Empire's internal strife could erupt into another war, and there were still countless dangers lurking in the vastness of space. But humanity had proven something that would resonate across the galaxy for millennia, that the strength of a species does not lie solely in its technology or military power. It lies in its ability to survive, to adapt, and to unite in the face of adversity. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity was ready to face them head-on, as equals among the stars. The Galactic Empire may have underestimated Earth's capacity for survival, but they would never make that mistake again. And neither would anyone else.